Welcome to the post-game pod. I'm Zarar filling in for Samson Folk. Joining me today is S. S, what's going on, man?
Nothing much, man. Nothing much. Just had my puppy graduate, but also caught a little bbit of the Raptors-Milwaukee game, so it was fun. It was good.
A game that has not yet ended. The Raptors are up by about 10 points or so. Giannis didn't play. Lowry didn't play. Ibaka was out. So both teams really rested their key starters. Maybe they were thinking they're not going to give anything away in this meaningless game. And it is a meaningless game for the most part. So to get some meaning out of a meaningless game, I guess we have to sort of look at some individual matchups and see how some of the bench performed or some of the role players performed, because these are guys you probably expect to contribute at some point in the future. And, you get these guys a run in. But also, man, psychologically, when you go up against somebody and you get beat, next time you play them, it's going to be the back of your mind.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. And also, back to your point about the bench, this is a good indicator of what you could potentially see for the Raptors rotation as well. Whoever is getting the bulk of the minutes right now is most likely who Nick Nurse is deciding between to see who the rotation really is. So you see Matt Thomas, who's been balling out tonight. He played 36 minutes already. He's obviously in consideration to be maybe that 8th, 9th, 10th guy that could potentially be in a playoff matchup or a playoff series, depending on the matchup. I think you're right on about the psychological aspect of this, because you've been beat by the Bucks twice in the regular season. You obviously didn't want to make it a third time, and I know we talk about how regular season doesn't necessarily matter, but it does to the players in a sense where they can see their confidence against a certain team, and this one will help you kind of pick your confidence against the Bucks.
Yeah, and I don't know where you're going with the 9th, 10th guy, man. To me, Matt Thomas is 6th man off the bench, man. I mean, 22 points. The guy needs no daylight.
Look,
he makes contested shots. And that's the one thing that we got to call out, is that it's not like this guy's coming in and hitting like garbage time shots or people are leaving him open or they're forgetting about who he is. Teams are playing him tight. Bledsoe was on him like no distance, a hand in his face, body to body. And Thomas still has enough dribbling skill where he can actually get away from Bledsoe, find a screen, brush off of it, create that daylight, and hit with hand and face. And we just saw a play in the fourth quarter where Bledsoe was like, okay, I'm gonna check this guy. So again, body on body, Thomas drives against him and finds Rondae Hollis for he got fouled on the play, but a nice find in traffic. So it's more than just shooting. He generally has great situational awareness, and he can put it on the floor just enough so he's not a one-trick pony.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's kind of a misconception a lot of Raptors fans have had about him, is that, Mr. 99%, he was known in this three-point shooter. Everybody's like, okay, he probably can just stand in a corner and shoot. But we've started to learn that he can do a lot of other things. And one thing that has caught my eye, especially in the second half of this game, was his mid-range game. His mid-range jumper is nice. And as soon as he comes off that screen, even if there's a man on top of him, or if there's a man that's dropping too low on that pick and roll, he can easily just spot up and shoot. It's cash money every single time. So I know we kind of have this misconception that he's only a three-point shooter, only catch and shoot type of guy, but he's known that he can pull it off the dribble. He can now do the mid-range, which I don't know if this is something he's been improving on, but clearly he can add it to his arsenal. And I'm kind of curious. I saw Robel tweet about this earlier, but I'm also curious to see how he would be put into playmaking situations, maybe be the pick and roll ball handler and see how that works for you. The Raptors had McCaw do that for a certain portion of the year. Maybe it's Matt Thomas that's the answer. And man, look, if it was up to me, I would put Matt Thomas 6th or 7th off the bench too. I'm cool with that. I'm good. I like it.
And as we speak, he just had a beautiful shot / alley-oop pass to I think it was OG. So he's got more bags. More tricks in his bag.
He's got a lot of bags
in his tricks. Maybe he has a lot of bags. I don't know.
Yeah. I'll say this too. I think it's between Terrence Davis and Matt Thomas. And over the past couple of games, we've seen Terrence Davis struggle a little bit. He fouled out tonight. I think he had like 10 points or something, but he fouled out. And he was okay. He had some good shots. His shot selection is still kind of iffy. You don't know if the effort is there with Terrence Davis. And I think the effort part is something that is kind of engraved into Matt Thomas because he wasn't in that situation to get playing time earlier in the season. He was always getting, garbage minutes and things like that. And he really had to work for getting opportunities. I think that ended up helping him in the long run. And now you see him kind of thriving in this chance that he's getting.
Yeah, Davis is an interesting guy because he does look, you don't generally associate lack of effort with anybody on the Raptors, but watching his body language sometimes, watching him like not attack a seam, you do get the sense that he's sort of disheartened. Maybe the whole like, punching holes through mass and getting a talking to from Nick Nurse and Masai, maybe he's getting over that hump. But enough about Terrence Davis. Matt Thomas is our man. We got to talk about Chris Boucher, who had an absolute monster game, including one dunk where he had two highlight reel plays. One was just a dunk in traffic over $2, and the other one was a double clutch layup, which is reminiscent of Jordan v. Lakers in 1991. Am I exaggerating? I'm not. Let's talk about Boucher before we get to some of the individual matchups here. This guy oozes confidence. Yeah. Oozes. I don't use the word oozes much, but I think here it's apropos, and I also don't use apropos much.
No, I definitely don't have the vocabulary you do, Zarar, but I think like even in the Celtics game when he was playing against the bench, he was picking it up. His energy is starting to pick up a lot more, and I think that was something that is really, really important for Boucher. His defensive energy kind of helps invigorate him. Oh, look, I do know words. Okay. Invigorate him in a sense where he gets a little bit more confidence on the offensive end. He gets a little bit more of a, I guess he feels more confident. That's the main word I'm trying to think of here, is that he understands his role in the offense a lot more when he makes an impact on the defensive end. That dunk that you're talking about, I think it was off of either a block or a shot contest that he had, caught the rebound, went by himself all the way on the fast break, and then dunked on Ilyasova and Middleton, which is just, it was an awesome play. I think energy is the big thing we're looking for here in the Raptors bench. And obviously Matt Thomas showed it today. Chris Boucher showed it today. And you hope that the other guys kind of pick it up too.
Yeah, and let's talk about a lot of guys out, so you didn't get to see a lot from either team, but you did see some matchups. The one that kind of stuck out in my mind was Siakam and Middleton, who were guarding each other for a bit of that second half there. And Siakam, one thing I noticed is that he, again, caveat this by saying that I don't know how much each team is putting in effort. It sure seemed like Middleton was trying really hard, but Siakam is able to get by Middleton fairly easily when he wants to, and that got me thinking, if he's able to do that in the postseason, that actually elevates the importance of Siakam's passing, because that's when he's able to find out those guys in the corner and start those swing sequences. So, any thoughts on the Middleton-Siakam matchup, and do you advantage who there?
I think Middleton is a good defender, somewhat underrated defender as well. So I think it's kind of surprising that you say that he blew by him, because I think Middleton would be a pretty decent matchup. He's long enough. He's fairly strong to guard a guy like Siakam, and his length could potentially bother a guy like Pascal. Like, he shot 5 of 16 tonight, 14.7 rebounds, and then he 1 of 7 from 3, which is crazy. I think Nurse is just giving him the green light to do whatever he wants. I would say in terms of the matchup of Middleton versus Siakam, I think the advantage there would go to Siakam, because at the end of the day, Middleton does not have that much of a post defense available to him. So let's say Siakam does bring him into the post, then he draws the double. Then from there, he can just swing pass, rotate. The ball is going to be there's going to be a wide open shot some point, right? I think that's something that the Raptors can look into, but at the same time, it's like, take everything with a grain of salt, right? This game doesn't really mean much to either team. You don't know what you're necessarily going to see matchup wise, so I don't know if that's going to be something we see in the playoffs with them. But if Nurse is putting Middleton on, if Bud is putting Middleton on Siakam, that may be a sign of him putting maybe Giannis on Siakam. I could see Giannis being put on Siakam as well, because I don't know who else would be. And Giannis has done a great job on Siakam this year, man. So I don't know.
And I made the point in the post game article for what was the game before this, Memphis, that teams definitely are taking more swipes at Siakam as he's handling the ball a bit more. Right? I think that recognizing that the dribble isn't fully mature yet, and there are ways you can probably cause turnovers if you pressure him enough. But to Siakam's credit, he has been better at handling the ball tighter and keeping it closer to his body. So adjustments being made by everybody right now as Siakam transitions more into, I guess transition's a strong word, but really handles the ball more and more.
The one thing I have to say I really want Pascal to stop doing is the jump passes, because I'm notorious for this. When I was in high school and I was playing, I used to jump pass all the time, and it would get me into a lot of trouble, not only with my coach, but I would get tons of turnovers. And I think a lot of the turnovers that we've seen in the past couple of games has been those jump passes from Pascal. And yeah, the dribbling has been a little bit of an issue, especially if they start to crowd him a little bit when he tries to drive into the paint. But I think one of the big issues for him right now is that he needs to make a decision before he jumps. Okay, I'm going to look for Van Vliet in the corner. Okay, no, Lowry's cutting on this end. There has to be some kind of decision-making process when you're making a jump pass. And if you're going to continue to do that, either become really good at a jump pass or stop it, take it out of your arsenal, and try to figure out a different way to make that pass.
Yeah, OG has a similar issue. He did that at least a couple times today. One of them resulted in a turnover where he went baseline, jumped to find a guy, and then ended up passing it to like a Milwaukee player. Similar issues, and both are, easily correctable if you actually just take the coaching into account and sort of plan your possession a little bit better.
Yeah. I do think one thing I'll say about Siakam, and we can talk about OG a little bit here, who I guess had a quiet night, but also, you don't expect much from him 25 minutes. I do want OG to kind of assert himself offensively a little bit in the next couple of games, because a lot of people are going to be giving him wide open shots. We saw that with, I believe, the Celtics, and I think the game before that was the Heat or the Magic, where he's going to be getting a lot of wide open shots. People understand that he's probably the fifth or fourth option of the starters offensively. And if they're going to be giving you those wide open shots, if they're going to be giving you possessions to kind of do whatever you please on the offensive end, you have to make them pay. And if that happens in a series versus the Celtics versus the Bucks, we want you to be a little bit more assertive. So OG, I feel like in these next couple of days, I would like to see him be more assertive on the offensive end. But, we'll see.
We got to give Norm Powell some airtime. Confidence is sky high, 3 for 5 from downtown. He's taken mid-range shots. He's finishing at the rim, 7 for 13 overall, 21 points, 8 rebounds to go along with 3 blocks. I don't know where they came from. Don't remember them much, but they're there. Thoughts on Norm? I mean, he's certainly somebody who's peaking at the right moment.
Yeah, I never really had any doubts that Norm would figure it out, especially after the first couple of games where he struggled to shoot the ball. His legs weren't kind of under his shot, and it seemed like the conditioning wasn't there yet. But I think he's back. And a game like this where you get to start and you're kind of in the rhythm of the game from the get-go, it helps him a lot to figure out his own rhythm within the game and pick his spots, pick his spots to kind of be aggressive, pick his spots to be passive, and kind of help his other teammates out. And I think that's the important part when you think of Norm and the bench in general. The Raptors have to rely on Powell and Ibaka to be kind of that engine off the bench. Both of those guys are going to be crucial to them in a playoff run. And if Powell can be that offensive threat that he was tonight, that he was before the league suspended when he was dropping 30 on the Suns and 30 on the Kings, I believe it was, or the Warriors, excuse me. If he becomes that type of guy, the Raptors have this ultimate 6-man type of guy who can just be a spark plug off the bench. I think he is that guy. It's just that now you're right. We caught him at the right time. His rhythm is finally there. I expect that to happen a little bit more over the next couple of games as well.
We got to talk a little bit about our perimeter defense, because Milwaukee throws a lot at us. They got 3-point shooters everywhere, right? And Kyle Korver was obviously an amazing pickup from them. And 5 for 6 he is from 3-point line. George Hill was 4 for 8. A lot of the other guys sort of struggled. But overall, you saw, watching this game, you saw just how much attention you have to pay to Milwaukee's 3-point line, because they are relentless. You cannot give them an inch, because they will take that 3. And this is a team that's built for the 3.
Yeah, absolutely. You're 100% right. They also take the 4th most amount of threes in the NBA. So, they take them because they know they can make them. They have the potential to make them as well. And especially when you're surrounding a team around a guy like Giannis, who sure isn't that much of a 3-point threat, you want to create shooters around him. It's no different than, having like it's a little bit different, but the Dwight Howard Orlando Magic days where he was surrounded by shooters and he was just operating in the paint, being a monster, and then he could just kick it out. Then the team would just rotate and find an open, Hedo Turkoglu or find an open Jameer Nelson. The Bucks are similar in a sense where Giannis draws multiple double and triple teams, and then he can just swing it. And then there's wide open jump shots for, you said it, Kyle Korver, George Hill, even Marvin Williams, who I think is a pretty sneaky pickup for them. Dante DiVincenzo, Wes Matt, like they have a lot of good shooters other than Eric Bledsoe. I think that's the big question mark for the Bucks, is if he's going to hit any shots.
Yeah, Bledsoe is certainly struggling, and even when he was guarding Matt Thomas, he struggled guarding him. And he had a terrible playoff series last year against the Raptors too. So hopefully that continues if we do ever see him. So one thing to kind of like round this little podcast off is, one play that I really like the Raptors running is Norm coming off a curl, or even Matt Thomas coming off that curl from the corner, and you get a screen from Ibaka or Gasol, and somebody from the other wing hits them right in stride at the top of the key, and they have an option to actually shoot right there or dive in. You expect that dive from Norm, but as you mentioned earlier, Matt Thomas also gives you that little dive if if he's pressured up top. That really adds a dynamism to that second unit that maybe wasn't always there.
I don't mind Matt Thomas being inserted as potentially a ball handler. I mean, you could maybe have Powell bring it up the court, but then put Matt Thomas in that pick and roll situation, or even the dive situation, and have him dribble handoffs and different situations that he kind of thrives in. There was a play earlier that I saw, and this is just pure sharp shooting ability from Matt Thomas, where Chris Boucher was at the top of the arc, and he pretty much does a dribble handoff. Thomas spots up automatically and just shoots it. He missed the shot, which is completely fine, but those are the type of shots that he's 100% confident in taking. And he can do it off the dribble. He can do it off the catch. He can actually be a dive guy, like you just mentioned. It works, man. I think Matt Thomas is kind of securing himself a spot in that playoff rotation. I like what you said earlier with 6-man. Let's do it.
One thing to call out is that Norm is 6'3", Thomas is 6'4", undersized, certainly, especially against a team like Milwaukee, so they can shoot over them. So maybe it's not a sustainable thing for long term, but certainly in stretches, you can get away with those two handling the ball and providing some sort of punch, especially when the other team's big guns are kind of resting.
I'll also say this in terms of an effort thing, like Matt Thomas, a lot of the scrutiny that he had earlier this season was that he just wasn't good at defense. And a lot of defense, in my opinion, is an effort thing. And when you have Terrence Davis not necessarily putting the effort on the defensive end, then that removes him from being an option on the bench. So, if Matt Thomas is playing hard on the defensive end, he's constantly going to get those shots from Nick Nurse. He's going to be picked over Terrence Davis at any point in time. So I'll say this now. I think Matt Thomas and Norman Powell and Serge Ibaka have kind of established themselves at 6, 7, 8. You could put Rondae Hollis-Jefferson in there as well. And then between Terrence Davis and Chris Boucher, Boucher has been playing well. Terrence Davis played well in the scrimmage games, didn't play that well in the seeding games. It's kind of up in the air. It's going to be dependent on matchups, and it's also going to be dependent on who's streakier, because Terrence Davis is a very streaky player, and if he catches fire, then you're going to have to insert him into that position.
The final is 114-106. The Raptors take the game over the Bucks. They got 2 games left against the Sixers and Nuggets before the playoffs start. S, thank you for joining the post-game podcast. Sam will be back for the next game. My name is Zarar. Thank you for listening. Follow us or something. I don't know.
That makes sense. Bye.
Okay. Okay. See you, man. Thank you.
All right, man. Take care.